The government's furlough scheme has kept, at its peak, over 9 million people in work across the UK, and the cost of the scheme in total is expected to be £60 billion. But it's scheduled to end in October, and many fear it's masking many thousands of job losses. Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, has warned that without an extension, manufacturing jobs in particular will be hit. But the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, is currently opposed and says the UK must embrace change. Other countries take a different view. France has already extended furlough to 24 months, and Germany is most likely to follow suit tomorrow. So does that put the UK at a disadvantage, or could we steal a march on our European neighbours? Here's our business editor, Helen Thomas.
Boris Johnson has called it suspended animation. 9 million people at the peak being paid not to work. Tens of billions of pounds for people to stop commuting, stop labouring, stop meeting. And now a looming policy challenge: how to restart and how to manage the fallout from furlough. The Jobs Retention Scheme is widely acknowledged to have stopped a huge spike in unemployment, but it will be judged on whether that jobs crisis is prevented or just delayed. The government says that furlough will taper off and finish at the end of October, and that companies and workers have to adjust to a new economic reality. But Germany is tomorrow expected to extend its furlough or short work scheme. France, Spain and Italy either have extended or are likely to extend their programmes. The UK is starting to look like an international outlier. There are still millions of people in the Job Retention Scheme. This is one estimate of the numbers of people furloughed from survey data. But new figures last week showed that actually the numbers are higher than previously thought. At the end of June, 6.8 million people were still in the scheme. Resolution Foundation estimates that 4 million people remain fully furloughed today, with more on a part-time basis.
The problem is the economy is still, facing substantial amounts of weakness, and in particular, some sectors of the economy are. So retail, leisure, hospitality, and some other sectors, they're not going to be bouncing back immediately. They're still facing both supply constraints on how they operate and also weak demand. Similarly, if we see local lockdowns, there's good reason to support jobs alongside any measures that restrict economic activity in particular areas.
One concern is that furlough could mask what are sometimes called zombie jobs. The argument is that the scheme keeps jobs going at companies or in sectors that simply aren't going to recover to full strength after the pandemic. Better, some say, to increase unemployment benefits and spend public money retraining people for new jobs in growing areas. Germany looks set to extend its short work scheme despite lifting lockdown restrictions earlier than the UK. And an overhang of worries about what might happen in November is the last thing the UK economy needs.
It's an economy that's very dependent on private consumption. So you definitely want to avoid a situation where the consumer feels very uncertain about the economic future. And hence it's particularly important to keep support programs in place to not jeopardize the economic recovery. What I recommend is that you run two strategies at the same time. So you have the blanket safety net of Kurzarbeit or short work schemes in place, but you have to complement it with active labour market policies, such as, for instance, hiring bonus to ensure that there is still mobility within the labour force.
Is the end of furlough the first step to rebuilding a new changed economy after COVID? Or is the scheme still a vital protection in these most unpredictable times?